Today, we are not looking at ghosts and we aren't talking about the supernatural. No, we are stepping into a very real, incredibly terrifying nightmare that unfolded in the summer of 2020. I want you to just picture this for a second. You take your family out into the remote wilderness, just trying to escape the stressful 24/7 news cycle, only to find yourself actively hunted by the very people who live there. People think you're somebody else. Imagine a total stranger leaning in and whispering that to you, out in a remote, isolated town where literally everyone is already glaring at you with these intensely hostile eyes. It's completely chilling, right? Well, this single sentence is basically the hinge on which our entire story turns today. It is the exact moment a peaceful family vacation completely shattered into a desperate fight for survival. Fast forward just a few hours from that cryptic warning, and you find yourself trapped. The only dirt road out of the forest is entirely blocked off by massive, freshly cut logs. In the fading light, you are completely surrounded. Muddy trucks, men holding what look like rifles, and the scariest part, they aren't shouting. They aren't demanding your money. They are just standing there, staring at you in absolute silence. The visceral dread of that moment is just unbearable. But to understand how a father, a mother, and their 7-year-old daughter ended up cornered in the deep Washington woods like this, we need to jump back in time to how this all started. Section 1. A deceptive paradise escaping the news. So Daniel, his wife Sarah, and their 7-year-old daughter Emma, they expected a perfect paradise. Towering pines, fresh air, a desperate bid to just find some peace and quiet away from the world. But as the sun began to set that first night, that paradise warped into something incredibly hostile. The very first sign that something was wrong, the forest went unnaturally quiet. I mean, dead silent. No birds chirping, no insects buzzing, just this uncomfortable, heavy stillness that was so oppressive, it actually made Sarah ask, "Doesn't it feel weird out here?" Section 2. Eyes in the dark, the forest changes. As the sun finally disappeared behind the trees, the temperature dropped and the true, crushing isolation of the deep Washington forest really set in. The crackle of their little campfire felt entirely too small against the pitch black. At 10 p.m., like we said, dead silence. Then at 10:30, a distant engine starts circling the camp. A dark pickup truck slowly rolls past their sight. The driver doesn't wave, doesn't say hello, he just stares. Then he drives past again and again. But the absolute peak of this psychological tension came right at midnight. Daniel is lying awake in the tent, and an engine approaches again. He looks out the window and headlights are stopped just 50 yards away. The vehicle wasn't passing by this time. It was simply sitting there in the dark, watching their tent, watching his sleeping family, just waiting. Section 3. The town's warning, hostile stares. When morning finally broke, the sunlight temporarily chased away some of that midnight dread. Daniel and Sarah tried to convince themselves, maybe it was all in their heads. They packed into their truck and drove into a tiny, isolated local town to grab some supplies, hoping to just shake off the fear. But the town offered absolutely zero comfort. It was barely a dot on the map, one gas station, one general store. And the second Daniel and Sarah walked inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Every conversation stopped dead. Dozens of hostile, suspicious eyes locked onto them. This wasn't just mild local curiosity about tourists. It was heavy, intense, and unexplainably paranoid. And then comes the chilling interaction right after they stepped back outside. A weathered local man in his 50s approaches Daniel. He's looking around nervously, confirms where the family is camping, and delivers a cryptic warning: "You should leave." Daniel kind of nervously laughs it off and asks why, and the man leans in and whispers, "People think you're somebody else. Just leave." He wasn't threatening them, he was genuinely terrified for them. Section 4. The roadblock. Trapped. That warning, that was all it took. The trip was officially over. They drove back to their campsite in near total silence, the forest now feeling incredibly dangerous. They frantically packed up their tent, grabbed their daughter, and were overwhelmed by this deep, primal instinct to get the hell out of there. But as they navigated the darkening dirt roads to escape, Daniel rounds a corner and violently slams on the brakes. The stomach-dropping realization hits them instantly. Their escape route is completely gone. Massive, freshly cut logs have been deliberately dragged across the road. There is no way around. This wasn't an accident. It was a carefully laid trap. Parked right next to those logs were 3 dark, mud-covered pickup trucks. The exact same kind they had seen patrolling their camp and sitting in town. Beside them stood several men. And like we talked about earlier, the most terrifying part wasn't what they were saying. It was their heavy, unbroken silence. They just stood there, staring, as if they had been expecting Daniel's family this whole time. And in the fading light, Daniel could see that one of the men appeared to have a rifle slung right over his shoulder. The psychological terror absolutely spikes when that heavy silence breaks into slow, deliberate movement. One of the men steps away from the trucks and begins walking silently toward Daniel's vehicle. Then another one follows. Still no shouting, still no demands. Just a steady, silent, ominous approach that sent Daniel's adrenaline totally through the roof.
Section 5. The Escape. Fleeing into darkness.
Every single instinct in Daniel's body screamed to leave right that second. He slams the truck into reverse. The tires are violently spitting gravel everywhere as he desperately backs up and whips the vehicle around. He hits the gas, abandoning the main road and shooting back into the darkening forest. They're basically driving blind through the trees, gravel hitting the underside of the truck, hearts absolutely pounding. And then comes the exact moment of pure, ice-cold panic. Sarah turns around to look out the rear window. Her face goes completely pale, and in a trembling, terrified whisper, she just says his name. Daniel.
Headlights. Right there in the rearview mirror. They weren't trying to pass, they weren't turning away, they were following them. Every twist, every turn, relentlessly matching their speed in the pitch-black forest. The psychological torment of this is just unbearable. Who were they? What did they want? Were they going to ram them off the road? The family had absolutely no idea what was coming next.
Daniel knew he had to make a desperate gamble. Suddenly, in the dark, he spots a narrow, nearly hidden logging road, heavily overgrown with brush. Without even hesitating, he violently swerves the truck onto it. Branches are smashing against the windows. The path is treacherous, covered in deep mud and massive rocks. It was a massive risk, right? Because if they got stuck in the mud here, they were completely defenseless. But they had to lose those headlights in the mirror. Section 6. The Terrifying Truth. Rumors online. After what felt like an absolute eternity navigating that brutal hidden trail, the trees finally began to thin out. They broke through the forest and hit a paved highway. Streetlights. Civilization. The immense, breathless relief of finally getting a single bar of cell signal allowed Daniel to instantly dial the police to report the armed men, the roadblock, the chase, the whole terrifying ordeal. But when the dispatcher connected Daniel to a local officer, the missing puzzle piece finally fell into place. And it's shocking. The terrifying ordeal they had barely escaped wasn't a supernatural force, and it wasn't a criminal cartel. It was the dangerous anatomy of a modern internet rumor. Here's what happened. For days, this isolated local community had been whipped into an absolute frenzy by unconfirmed, totally false rumors spreading rapidly online. Posts were circulating on social media about dangerous, armed groups of outsiders coming into the forest to cause trouble. The fear basically became a contagion, and tragically, Daniel's dark-colored truck perfectly matched the online descriptions people were sharing. This small, terrified town had effectively turned into a paranoid vigilante group, and they were hunting an innocent family on vacation. It is a chilling, real-world reminder of the consequences of online rumors. Daniel and his family survived by trusting their instincts and refusing to stop the car. But years later, as he reflects on those silent armed men waiting by the log roadblock in the fading light, he's left with one haunting thought. Just think about the sheer fatal danger of mistaken identity here. What would have happened if they had stepped out of the truck?